Hi, welcome to our podcast, Broker Banner Denver, where we are breaking down barriers to home ownership. I'm your host, Kim Davis, the real estate expert.
And I'm Patrick Williams, the mortgage guy. We're here to inform and educate about the home buying and financing process. How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Good. It's been a nice week weather-wise, nice and warm. And
yeah, did you have a good weekend?
I did. Yeah, watched football. Got outside a little bit. Nothing too exciting, but
we watched a lot of football too.
Yeah.
From a hospital room.
Oh wow! What's going on?
I mean, just husband had a little issue, but he's fine. We spent the weekend in the hospital, and
everything's okay.
Everything's okay. He's good. So yeah,
I'm sure
we sat around and watched football. So not forced football. I love watching football, but
he didn't really have much of a choice in the matter.
To do. So football was it.
Well, I'm glad to hear he's okay.
Yeah.
and doing better.
Yep.
I'm sure he's probably pretty excited that we're talking about that, huh?
Oh, that's what happens when you're on a podcast. Your life becomes a book, and that's fine.
Yeah. We're an open book.
We are an open book.
Yeah.
I mean, and actually, I was thinking that we should ask for you, the viewers, to send in questions. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can just hit that comment section. And, if you have any questions of Patrick or I, personal or business, we would be happy to answer if you want to get to know us better.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, our relationship business-wise is a business of relationships.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you haven't figured it out, Patrick and I are also personal friends. Mm-hmm. Our families hang out together, so we know each other personally and in business.
Yeah. You and my wife have run some Ironmans together.
Yeah, she forced me to do a half Ironman this last year. It did get me into shape.
Well, and didn't you have you said you didn't really train as much as you did the first time.
I did not train as much, so.
But you did didn't you have just as good of a time?
So just to get to know us a little bit, I am 47, and on my 40th birthday, along with our other friend, Elise, we decided that we were going to do a half Ironman.
Yeah.
And so Paula, Patrick's wife, is significantly younger than us, 7 years. And so she just turned 40 and decided, hey, let's do a half Ironman again. Which, thank you, Paula. I know you'll probably watch this. Love you.
You too.
Yeah, he loves you too. But I was not in the mindset to do a half Ironman again. And so, but we wanted to because it was her birthday. And so she turned 40. Once again, I was 47. And so was our friend Elise. She was 47 also. And so we trained for a year for a half Ironman, which is a 1.2 mile swim, a 50-mile bike, I believe.
56?
Or was it 56-mile bike?
Yeah. And then a half marathon. 13.1
mile run. I hate to run. So I power walked the whole
Which is great. Well, here's the thing, though. So my wife's looking at it. Our son graduated high school this year, and a lot of the Ironmans are earlier, kind of spring, summer time period. And I'm like, look, I want you to do this, but I don't want you to be in the peak of your training season during graduation, because that just seems like it's going to be way too much. Right. So she was able to find one that was a little later in the season. It was in October, early October.
We did it in October in Phoenix, or
it was
Tempe.
But when she looked at it, they said the average temperature was in the 70s. It was supposed to be nice. Well, we drop our son off. Actually, he's down in Phoenix area in August, and it was just this brutal summer down there. It was 120 degrees when we dropped him off in August, and then we get down there into September, early October. It's still 100 degrees.
Yes, it was 100 degrees, and so the swim wasn't bad because you're in the water, and it wasn't
early in the morning.
And it wasn't that hot yet.
Yeah.
And then the bike, so it's a great Ironman if you're a spectator, because you go by the same people 3 times.
Yeah, you did laps.
You do
in
laps.
That downtown Tempe area.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was fun, but the third lap, I was like, it's getting hot. And then you run, and it was over, 102, 103 degrees?
It was really hot.
So
a lot of people didn't finish. I mean, a lot. There was some younger guys that you guys met at the beginning of the race.
Correct.
We ran into them, and they were wasted.
Right.
They were just like, we can finish.
Our friend, Elise, is all about fitness, and so she made us take salt pills. She talked to us about salt pills. And so there were 5 of us who did it all together, and my husband being one of them also. But a lot of cramping, and they all ran because they all are competitive. I am competitive, but different kind of competitive. I'm only competitive if I think I can win. And I knew I wouldn't win.
You did
I'm
win.
the slowest of the 5.
You finished.
I finished.
That's winning. That's winning.
That is winning.
It is. I mean, come on. That's not an easy feat.
So,
you need to give yourself some credit.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. No, it was a good time. We were down there, but it was so hot. Thankfully, it was a really well supported race, though, right?
Was.
I know my wife told me every single time. I think every mile they had an aid station with ice, and she would put ice in her hat and in her shirt and just hold on to it because it was just so hot for running.
Hot. And, you know, it did kickstart, health for me. I was, upper 40s now, and it was.
It was good. I think it's good to do hard things.
Yes, to push.
To push yourself beyond your limits, to see what you're capable of, because we really are pretty capable of amazing things.
Yes.
I've done some mountain bike races and things like that. I'm trying to get talked into doing one of these triathlons. I'm not so sure.
So if you really want to get to know us, we're thinking about doing the Loveland Lake to Lake Olympic.
Which is an Olympic distance.
It's Olympic distance.
Which is about half of a half.
Half of a half Ironman, yeah. I think it's still about just under a 1 mile swim, and then a 30
and then a 10K, right?
Yep, and a
10K run. So my wife's
Much
really
more doable.
trying to talk me into doing that. I've run a half marathon. I've done some mountain bike races, but I've never. I think swimming for me, that's the one that
seems to be the big thing that everyone. It's swimming or running, right? I don't like to run. I love to swim. I know a lot of people who don't know how to swim, right? That's what you're probably afraid of.
I mean, I know how to swim. I don't know how to get in the pool and do 50 laps.
Right.
I mean, I've never swam endurance distances.
Well, we don't want to do 50 laps. We want to go to Chatfield Rock Pond and swim out there in open water.
From what I hear, it does not really sound that fun. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still kind of on the fence, I think everybody's going to make me do it.
I think everyone should write in and tell Patrick he needs to do it. Yeah.
That's exactly what we need.
You just said something about, not sitting in the comfort, right?
No,
trying hard things,
doing hard things. It's good for you. I 100% agree, and I've gotten pretty comfortable on the mountain bike, right? So probably trying to do something different.
You're not going to ride a mountain bike in a triathlon.
No, I'll probably ride my gravel bike.
Okay. Put some aero bars on that sucker.
I don't know about all that. Not for 30 miles. I mean,
you should.
No,
it'll be great. And then when you're taking it on the gravel trail, everyone can look at you with your aero bars. It would be so great.
I don't know. We'll see. We've still got some time. I'm coming off of being sick. I don't know if you could tell last podcast, but my voice was shot, and so I'm trying to get back in shape now. I was getting on the spin bike, and I mean a little 45-minute ride, and my heart rate was like 180. So I'm working towards getting back in shape. Yeah. But
for mountain biking season, because that is your passion. You love mountain biking.
Mountain biking is my thing.
I like a little bit of everything.
Mountain biking.
Except for running, apparently.
Running. Right. Yeah, but so the unofficial start of mountain biking season is typically when we spring forward.
May? Oh, spring forward.
Spring forward, because you get that extra hour of sunlight after working hours, which we work always, but we're always on, right? Like a lot of stuff happens after 9 to 5s and weekends and stuff like that. But typically, you get that extra hour of sunlight, and sun starts going down at 7, and you can get a bike ride in after work. And so that's not that far away, Kim. Like, have you realized that we're at the end of January here? Mm-hmm. We've got
every day we have more.
Oh yeah,
more time,
but we get. I mean,
sunlight.
March 10th, I think, is when we spring forward. So when you start thinking about that, that's
my
about
brother's birthday.
Perfect. 6 weeks. 6 weeks, and we're going to be having sunsets at 7:00 again.
Well, I hear we're having 60-degree days this next week. I heard that we're supposed to have a couple.
I am so excited for that.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, what do you think? You think we should talk a little bit about?
Should we talk a little real estate or mortgage? Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about credit, and we've talked a little bit about getting qualified. And so we thought that we would talk to you guys today about the steps of if you are or if you've never walked through the home buying process, what that means and what that looks like. So if you speak, most people start off by talking to a realtor or talking to a mortgage broker like Patrick. And so what we do from there is once you have the initial consultation, and Patrick would then get you pre-qualified, or your mortgage broker or mortgage lender would get you pre-qualified, but hopefully Patrick. And that's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's a couple things. We're going to pull your credit and make sure your credit is in good standing. We talked a lot about that last episode, what that looks like as far as what a gold borrower looks like, what goes into your credit. So we'll pull your credit. We're going to verify your income. It's a couple pay stubs, W-2, maybe a couple of years of tax returns if you're self-employed. And then we're going to verify your assets, so the funds that you'll be using for your down payment. Once we've done that, we'll send out a letter. So I'll let Kim know that, hey, we've verified all of this information, and this person is pre-approved. My underwriters looked at everything. The only piece of this application that's missing is the property.
Right.
So then after the boring part of me getting you pre-approved, you get to go back to Kim and begin that fun, exciting part,
yes.
right?
So we start a search for your house. And what does that look like? We use the MLS, and we
what's the MLS, Kim?
MLS is a site that has all the homes that realtors use here in Denver. And it will, it's your search, basically.
Okay, so it's a
search.
The list of all the homes that are currently for sale in the market.
Currently for sale in the market. And so I always say you cast that net wide, right? So if you are, for instance, wanting to live in Centennial, we would cast all of Centennial, and then eventually we would look at, subdivisions, and you would just say, hey, I really like this area. I really like this subdivision. But so we set up showings, and then showing the houses. So once we get a few on the list, or even if it's one the past few years, sometimes you go out and only see one house because we have a shortage of homes.
Yeah.
And
which we talked about, inventory, right? And
right.
the challenge of how many homes are actually on the market. It's still considered an undersupply of homes that are on the market right now. Okay.
Correct. So we are hoping that we'll get some more homes here in the spring, summer. But then once we go and we look at houses, which can be, I've had people find their dream house in one showing, and I've had people who've looked for 2 years. So it really is just on how motivated you are as a buyer on what you're looking for. Then from home showings, you like it, I would write an offer. That's when kind of Patrick and I would, he would be involved a little bit in the offer, right? He would help you with your payment, kind of telling you.
Yeah, based on that sales price, right? So with the pre-approval, we get an idea. Like some people want to be driven, like we want to be in this price point. Some people are driven by, we would like to be in a payment around this amount.
Correct. So what you're saying is sometimes people can be approved for more than what they are comfortable with payment-wise.
Correct. And obviously it's a moving target because, hey, we want to be pre-approved for this amount, and then they find a home and maybe it's a little more. But if we can still get them to qualify and they're comfortable with that payment, then that's what we're going to make happen for them, right? But it is a moving target. So what we do is based on your offer and the purchase price of that, I will write a letter that she submits with the contract, and I'll actually usually reach out to the seller's agent and just let them know, hey, you're fully pre-approved. I don't see any issues. This is a really strong buyer, so I highly recommend you accept this offer.
Right. So it's great because every house, the payment fluctuates a little bit because, for instance, if you buy a house, it depends. Your payment includes taxes.
Right.
And insurance.
Correct.
And so if you... HOA.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So the one fixed piece, usually, especially if you decide to go with a 30-year fixed product, is the principal and interest payment.
Right.
That is a fixed payment amount that's based on the amount of money that you borrow and the interest rate, right? And it's 30-year mortgage. So that doesn't ever change. But insurance amounts are changing all the time. Obviously, property taxes has been a big topic of conversation.
Very big topic of conversation, which is I didn't read the article, but I did see a headline in the Denver Post about Douglas County trying to give Douglas County residents a break for property taxes, and I think that it just got voted down, and so now the county is, I believe, in court with the state.
Yeah, I think
about
they're fighting the state. But the state's also trying to do some things. I think there was one point they're like, we'll use your Tabor refund to offset your taxes. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, thanks a lot for using my money to pay my taxes.
To pay my own taxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's called, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, I think so. But everything comes into consideration. We're trying to help you find the best place that you're looking for and keep you within the payment that you're comfortable with. Yeah. And so just kind of a quick bunny trail is you just want to really look at taxes, especially if you're looking at new builds. New builds these days, tax rates on new builds can be anywhere over 1%. They're usually 1.2, 1 to 1.5. I've even seen 1.6. And so what does that mean? Most taxes, if you're not a new build, are as low as 0.3, 0.4. So you're paying a whole percentage. So on a $700,000 house, you could have $10,000 in taxes due yearly.
Well, the new builds can be a little tricky when it comes to taxes, right? Because taxes are typically a year behind, and so
Correct.
when you buy that brand new home, it's still being taxed as vacant land.
Correct.
Right? And so they can only estimate that. But then I think I worked for home builders for a while, and there's a lot of like metro district fees and some of that infrastructure that they put in, like sewer and water and power that you are paying in addition to the
like
typical
30-year
property
bonds.
taxes.
Yeah. So I love new builds. I love how new they are and pretty, and no one's lived in them. But we just want to educate you as a home buyer on homes. So it's more than just going to look at a house. There's more that goes into it. But all right. So then now we've written the offer. It's accepted, and so from there it goes into what we call inspection period. We would get Patrick to start on behind the scenes on your loan, and then we would go to an inspection. So an inspection is, I would recommend you hire an inspector, and we do have recommendations that we give you. And what the inspector does is he goes through the house. He will thoroughly go through the house. He's a general person. Like, he knows a little bit about everything, a little bit about HVAC, electrical, roofing, and he will tell you whether or not, and we can discuss it together, whether or not you need to, call in an expert, so an electrician or an HVAC.
So he'll look over the whole house.
Correct.
And he's going to point out some things maybe that could use some further attention, maybe from an electrician, a licensed electrician, or a heating and ventilation expert to come in and maybe look at the furnace. It's a little older. Those kind of things. Okay.
And an inspector is, actually, if you want to know more about inspections, we're going to have an inspector here next week to kind of talk about inspections, and he can get into the nitty gritty more about that.
Okay.
But
so we'll do that next week?
That'll be next week. I think it'll be great.
Our first guest.
Our first guest, yes.
Exciting.
So then after the inspection period, and we discuss it, we would then negotiate, if there's anything to negotiate, with the seller's agent on if we want to ask for anything. So that is usually when deals either continue to move forward and we get to the closing table, or you make a decision to not go with that house because it might have a lot of issues. The big thing here in Denver are structural issues. We have a lot of bentonite. Foundational issues, yes.
Yeah, and so at that point, this is when you're saying, you know what, now that we found out all this information about the house, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the house. Maybe, we didn't really see it when we were just kind of going through it. Like, we either need this stuff fixed, or we're walking away altogether.
Correct.
Okay.
Inspection period is the time that you can be at the house the longest. Usually when you go and look at a house, you're in there maybe 15 minutes. Sometimes if we walk through it a couple of times, I have on the first showing 30 minutes. But sometimes people want to go back twice before they, decide. But then when the inspection comes, you're usually in the home for about 3 hours. So you really get to get the feel of the house, maybe even the feel of the neighborhood if you're walking around the neighborhood. And so a lot of things, go into, obviously buying a house other than inspection.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I remember, you were my agent.
I was.
Yeah, when we bought our house. We've been in our house since 2019. And I remember you recommending us kind of just drive through the neighborhood and see what it looks like, because we go during the day, or and then, so go see what it looks like at night, or are there a bunch of kids out playing in the streets, or is it a quiet older neighborhood? You really, it's amazing how much, like, just going and doing the showing, how little really about the property.
Right. Yeah. And I always say, hey, if you see a neighbor, talk. Because someone who's lived there can tell you more about the neighborhood. Yeah. And so it's always a good thing to do. So then once we get past inspection, so let's say we're moving forward. If you decide not to move forward, then we would start over, with looking at houses again. But let's say we're moving forward. You love this house. You can't, it's your dream house. We move forward. And if you have a loan, which most people do, we would then go through the appraisal process. So that's kind of where, we're waiting for all your loan stuff to kind of get done.
Yeah, typically the appraisal piece is the last piece of the mortgage financing, usually one of the last contingencies on the purchase contract. And so what we do is we have a relationship with a lot of appraisers here in the Denver area. We'll order that appraisal. What they'll do is they go in, and this is different than a home inspection. So just to be clear, right? Like, a lot of people think, the appraiser's really looking more at, does the property conform to the neighborhood? Meaning, is it similar to the houses around it? Does it meet investor requirements? We typically sell our loans to Fannie and Freddie and FHA. FHA does have some more stringent requirements, but that's usually what we're just making sure that the purchase price that you've offered for the subject property is worth what you're wanting to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So appraisals can be, it's the next big hurdle. They can be kind of, what would you say, stressful on buyers sometimes.
They can.
Even though you have nothing that you can do, realtors can help. What appraisers do is they're a third party that estimates the value of your house.
Correct.
And how they get that estimation is by looking at what has sold, usually within that subdivision first, and then if not, they
go out to a competing subdivision that's similar to that, but they're
based
looking
on bedrooms, baths, square footage.
Correct. Style of home.
Right? A lot of times you don't appraise a ranch with a 2-story house. I mean, they will.
They can, but
if you have enough in that neighborhood that's a 2-story versus a 2-story, you'd like to keep apples and
and right now, because of the limited amount of transactions that we're having, we are seeing people go a little further out, maybe use less similar properties, and what they'll do is they make adjustments. Right. So based on, like, this one had less bedrooms or less fireplaces, less bathrooms, so they're adjusting upwards or downwards based on that. But what we do is they come to a final conclusion of the value, right? And there are times when the appraiser says, look, based on the sales that I'm finding over the last 3 to 6 months, hopefully less than 3 months, but sometimes in the winter months they expand that. We think, okay, we like nice even numbers, right? Because we do good math. So you offered $500,000 for this home, right? The appraiser comes in and is like, look, this house sold for $450,000, this one sold for $475,000. I really don't think this house is worth $500,000.
Right. Which happened a lot.
It does. And so the
2020, 2021, we would see a lot of appraisals that were maybe lower than what we were asking. And
so what happens then? So let's say my appraiser comes in and they say, no, I think this house is only worth $490,000, but you've offered $500,000.
This is why you need a good mortgage broker or realtor, right? Because
absolutely,
if the appraisal doesn't come in, there are still steps. So by what I mean by appraisal not coming in, for instance, like you said, if it comes in at $490,000, then we can go in and say, hey, this is more updated. They have a nicer kitchens and bathrooms are where you get most of your value. Mm-hmm. They put in brand new windows. It has a new roof. Anything that we can do to get value. And then what can you do? Usually you have an appraisal department, right, that can talk to.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we're going to take that information. Maybe there's another property that's sold in that neighborhood that we can use and say, hey, you know what? You didn't look at this property that sold for $515,000 because it had these same similar style upgrades as the one that you're looking at. So we offer that one to them, and then we make sure that they understand, look, these are some of the things that we feel justifies the value that we've offered of $500,000. And so we do an appraisal we just
like
work
a calculation,
with,
like
yeah,
a
well, we
recalculation.
work with the appraiser.
Right.
They are the expert, and we're limited in how much we can actually talk with them. But we do work with them to say, look, hey, maybe take a look at some
They're
additional
humans
information.
too, right? They make mistakes, but their goal is to make sure that whoever is giving you the loan, that they're making a good
Yeah.
investment in you and in the
Yeah.
house, because your house is the collateral for the loan. And so this third party who, doesn't work for the mortgage company, doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
is a
they're independent. So that's why we work kind of independently. They don't want really us influencing the
Right.
appraiser. It's a third party. So we ask them to reconsider their value.
Correct. But because they are human, and they may have missed something, or maybe are not as familiar with the location
Mm-hmm.
or the property, that's why you need people to advocate for you
Absolutely.
as a buyer.
Well,
and
and
so
two
that's
things-
what we are here for.
Absolutely. So two things will happen here. They'll look at the information that we've asked them to reconsider, and they'll adjust their value to $500,000, or they'll say no. I'm going to stand firm at my value at $490. So then I will reach out to Kim and I'll say, hey, we've got a little bit of a problem here. The property's not appraising, and this doesn't happen very often.
That's what I was going to say. Patrick is painting a little scary picture.
No, but it is something
does
that
happen.
it does happen.
It does happen.
It's few and far between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we would say is that this is why you do need experts, right? To advocate for you
Absolutely.
and to help you walk through the process of, buying a house.
Yeah,
It is
but
more
then you
than
would
just
go-
it's more than just looking and a contract. There's
It's
a lot more that
it's
goes
a very
into it.
complex transaction. There's a lot of pieces that are involved
Correct.
with it. But you go back and you fight and you say, look, we have an appraisal issue, and we get that resolved, whether we get the sellers to bring down the value of the home or we work out and come in with the difference for the loan amount. So those are usually the two ways to resolve that. And again, it is something that happens pretty few and far between.
And I've actually had it where it's come in low and they have helped with value once they were, educated a little bit more. So it can happen, but let's just hope that the appraisal comes in at asking price or above. Above is always better.
We see above more often than we see
than-
below.
correct.
And in the market that we're in, we don't see below very often.
No,
right?
not here in Denver.
No, and not for a
We
long
did-
time.
We did in 2020 mostly because there were so many people were so desperate that they couldn't get the value up fast enough. But then what happens is once that one house closes, that is now a new comparable listing
Correct.
that the appraiser will use. And then that helps with value. That's why you saw values rise so much in 2020, 2021.
It was
'Cause we had a
it was
lot
really
of-
quickly.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Which usually that's not the norm.
Right.
So a lot of cash buyers help raise those prices in your neighborhood.
And the
Great-
multiple offers,
Correct.
right?
The
Like you had
multiple
competing
offers.
offers.
And appraisers do look at that. They do ask us as realtors, how many offers did you have on that house? And they do put that into consideration. But it's just hard when there's a $500,000 house and someone offered $700,000, which was happening. And
which
so-
is crazy.
Which is wonderful for homeowners that are already in the market. Not so
Yeah.
great when you're buying and
Yeah.
trying to move into Denver. But
It
you know,
was pretty prevalent during 2021, 2022. We're not seeing
we're not seeing that.
that as much anymore.
Correct.
But we are still, we are seeing multiple offers in this market right now.
Yeah.
We kind of said that earlier. Like,
And we're expecting 2024 to be with interest rates hopefully going down. We're hoping they go into fives.
I think by the end of the year, we're going to see fives.
Great.
That's the projection. They're changing every day. We've had a lot of good information on jobs and different things. GDP came out. So we've kind of bumped back up a little bit, unfortunately. But I think the long-term
and interest
trend,
rates change daily,
they do.
multiple times.
There's a
Is
lot
that
of
correct?
factors that go into your interest rate. But the long-term projection is we are expecting the Federal Reserve to start lowering their rates, and in turn, that's going to help with mortgage
with
rates.
mortgage rates.
And we are seeing, a 5% rate before the end of 2024.
So what we keep saying is that if you're a buyer in this market, you want to jump in now. Even though rates may not be the best, you can always refi. But we can talk. We've talked about that in the
Yeah.
past. But
it's an ongoing conversation.
It
I
is
think
an
we
ongoing
need to keep
conversation.
repeating that.
So
So we get past appraisal.
So if
right?
we get past appraisal, then I mean, then that's when we usually go to the closing
Yeah.
and you get to sit and bring a good pen. They have you sign a lot of documents.
We do have a lot of documentation. Yeah.
Which are and we here in Colorado, we do not do escrow closes, which is what I believe California and some other
California,
states do. We close, and as soon as you close, and as long as we've negotiated possession, you own that house right after the wet signature, and then depending on the negotiations, you own that house, and you can go straight to that home right then and there, unless
Yeah, sometimes there's some different things that
There
are in the
is.
contract where maybe you don't
Right.
possess as soon as you
Correct.
close, but we're seeing that less and less these days too.
we are. So then you are in possession, and
Which
you're a
is
new
this is it.
homeowner. Yay!
Yeah, so the closing table, really, I think the most exciting part for me is calling and saying, hey, you have that clear to close. Like there are no more loan conditions. Everything has been met and satisfied. My underwriter's fully signed off, and we can schedule closing. And so that's
and it's
just
such
the
a
most exciting.
happy day,
Yeah.
and we love to help people, and so it's a great day for us too, as people who've walked alongside you and helped you to see the dream come true. I remember buying my first house. It's a sense of pride.
It's an exciting day. It's a milestone. I really think, like buying your first home, getting married, having
Yes.
kids. Not everybody chooses all those same paths, but buying a home, that is a milestone
It is a
moment,
milestone.
And I know,
Absolutely.
I think I saw a picture of us holding like a big key
Yes.
or something.
That's true.
And so we do celebrate that, right? Like I like to bring a gift to closing to say congratulations and
I'll send that picture to Jesse, and he can put it on.
oh, all right. Yeah, so
But so
it is.
just
It's a celebration.
It is,
The
it
closing
is.
day is a celebration. Once you get the hand cramps out of the way,
Right.
the rest of the day
you
is
can
to
see
celebrate.
a picture of Patrick and I 5 years younger.
Yeah.
That's
I
when we
haven't.
bought
I haven't
2019.
aged a day.
You haven't.
No.
Not at all. So just a quick recap, just because we went on a few little bunny trails there, but initial consultation with a lender or a realtor,
Yep,
and then
pre-approval.
from there you get a pre-approval. We go and look at home showings, and then we write an offer. Then we go into inspection, appraisal, and then the closing table.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it sounds so easy when you say those steps, but there can be, and I know we got off on a little bit of some
I
bunny
think we
trails.
explained inspection's a big thing. Appraisals are big things. Negotiating a contract are very big things. They're definitely things that you don't want to do if you're not an expert and done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
on-
So
you don't want to do it on your own.
you definitely don't want to do it on your own, and you definitely want to hire somebody who's an expert. There are a lot of people
Part-time
that
who
do real estate on
is-
the weekend.
especially in Colorado. We have a lot of real estate brokers. You might even know one, but yeah, that are part-time, and so you just want to make sure that this is usually the biggest asset that you're going to have in your life, and so you don't want to
Leave that.
work with someone who maybe does it part-time. So
Yeah.
just make sure whoever you use that they're qualified to work in that.
in that field.
In that field,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And so I did hear something about statistics this morning. So I have a statistic that I want to throw out. Somebody told me that 92.7% of statistics are made up.
Oh, really?
Yes. No, not really.
Oh, let's make one up right now.
No, but the statistic that
I think that your statistic is made up.
It might be. It might be. No, the statistic I saw this week for the state of Colorado specifically, according to the Department of Real Estate, is that as
That's
far
a
as,
good source.
Yeah, it is.
Department of
It's
Real
very
Estate.
reliable. The amount of mortgage loan officers or mortgage bankers, mortgage brokers, there are a couple different titles,
Yes.
was went down by 50% in the state of Colorado from 2023 to 2024. So we've lost about 50% of people in my field, and then as well as real estate agents, it's I think 25%.
I was going to say the last statistic I heard. I don't have a source.
Well, no. It was
Oh,
on there.
same.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
25%. So we went from 30,000 mortgage bankers or loan
Yeah.
officers in 2023 to 15,000.
Right. So I know that our company, REMAX Professionals, has told us, and I believe they had said 20-25%.
Yeah.
So they
and that
probably
was
got it
confirmed
from-
through the
Yeah.
Department of Real Estate.
That's-
Yep.
Yeah, so those are probably a lot of the part-time mortgage brokers and the part-time realtors. And
They
so
are.
we are just encouraging that you work with someone, once again, who is professional who knows this business, as it is sounds easy when you, like you said, go through the steps very quickly like that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of hiccups, and our job is to make sure that you don't have hiccups, or if you do, that we have solutions and help you find the solutions.
That I think that's the key is, you and I have been in this business a long time, you a little
Yes.
longer than I, but when we have 20 years of experience, we've seen a lot of different scenarios.
Correct.
And we've been able to overcome those scenarios. And so we can look back on that experience and we say, I've seen this before.
And share our wisdom with you.
Yeah, exactly. And we know how to fix this. We know how
Yes.
to work through this. Here's our solution in order to continue this transaction forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So long story short, make sure you know who you're going with and that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, thank you for enlightening us on this.
You're welcome.
Home buying experience and what that looks like. I don't know that everyone knows the amount of steps that are in there.
Yeah, especially if you've never bought in a home.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to help educate you. And if you, once again, have any questions, please go to YouTube at Broker Banner Denver and write them there in comments.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you appreciate what we're doing here, you think maybe somebody could use the insight that we provide, please share our podcast with them. You can also find us on Spotify and iTunes.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks
See
for
you next
joining
week.
us.